Colombia had the longest democracy in Latin America. In the last century, the country suffered only 4 years of democratic interruption. Second, Colombia has been a country of solid, independent institutions. Third, Colombia never defaulted and never suffered hyperinflation. Fourth, however, in the year 2002, Colombia had a very low investment rate, high unemployment. In between 16 and 20, the people in poverty were over 53, and we had a very unfair income distribution. Our government did not solve the problems, but we were on the right track. And my question was, what is the reason for this democracy that honors of the countries cannot prosper? And among the obstacles we found violence. During the 200 years of independent life, our country had only 47 years of peace. 7 years in the 19th century and 40 years in the 20th century. At the very end of the 19th century, we had one civil war that is known with the name of the 1,000 days of civil war. This war came to the end during the last quarter of the year 1902. The country was in deep depression. And 1 year later, the jewel of the crown, Panama, declared its independence. And Colombia had no option. We enjoyed relative peace during 40 years. But in the 40s, again the violence between the two main political parties broke out again. And the leaders of these parties agree on what is known as the National Front at the very end of the 50s, the same year that the Cuban Revolution won. And Castro chose Bolivia and Colombia as the countries to replicate its Marxist-oriented revolution. And the remnants of the parties and political guerrillas were used by Castro to create communist guerrillas. And of course, Marxist communist guerrillas expanded in our country. Many governments, with all the good faith, did their best to negotiate peace agreements with these guerrillas. But in the vast majority of the cases, without any success. And there show up the paramilitary reaction. The paramilitary organization with the same level of criminality than Marxist-oriented guerrillas was created with the purpose to replace the government and to act against guerrillas. Finally, both left-wing guerrillas and the right-wing paramilitaries were co-opted by narco-trafficking. This is the situation we found in the year 2002. Of course, in quite a few minutes, I try to summarize to you the long history of violence in a country with the happiest people all over the world. Our government appealed to one word: confidence. I remember that talking to students after having been governor in my province during the beginning of my presidential campaign. Many of them, the vast majority of them, told me, "Candidate, we want to leave the country without a return ticket." They had lost the roots in the country, the feeling of patriotism. For we said, we need to restore confidence in Colombia. And I asked Colombian investors and foreign investors, Colombia is a country with economic institutions. Colombia has never broken contracts. What is the reason for you not to invest in this country? Because we cannot trust, given that level of violence. And we said, we need an integrated solution. And we spoke about the triangle of confidence. And we spoke about the necessity to have a combination of security, investment promotion, and social cohesion. And to work with these three elements simultaneously. Of course, it was very difficult to convince the vast majority of my fellow Colombians to vote for a platform based on security. My generation was educated at the university with the idea that it was impossible to create security without previously solve the social problems. There was some kind of combination between the approaches of the theories explaining the origins of crimes and the Marxist-oriented theories. In my country, the vast majority of the people were friendly with the military, with the police, or they were unfriendly. Although Colombia has not suffered dictators, military dictators, and only, as I have already stated to you, suffered 4 years of democratic interruption. In Colombia, many people had fears of many intellectuals in the region that security could be a path to create dictatorships. And of course, politicians were afraid. In the year 1990, 4 presidential candidates were killed. In my case, I had suffered a lot of attempts. Colombia is a country with 1,102 municipalities, every one with its mayor. And all mayors are elected by direct popular vote. We elect the governors, the states. We have 32 states. Step by step, Colombia has been in a process of opening its democracy. It is very important to understand the main difference between Colombia and other Latin American countries that suffer Marxist-oriented guerrillas, and to understand the nature of the agreements they sign with the agreements Colombia should reach. And to overcome all the obstacles, we spoke about security with democratic values, without censoring the media, without being led by martial law, with the respect to political rights and to civil rights. Indeed, during our 8 years, Colombia had 2 presidential elections, 2 congressional elections, 2 regional elections, 1 referendum, and all the candidates enjoy effective freedoms. When my administration began, almost 400 mayors out of 1,102 were in danger, and they could not be in their towns because of the threats. And we provide all of them with security, regardless their political origins. But at the same time, we created an economic framework to promote investment. And at the same time, we advanced in social cohesion. During our 8 years, we had 4 deep crises. First, the inheritance, the problems the country were in at the moment we were elected. Many people in the international community refer to Colombia as a country at the brink of collapse, as a failing state. Second, the international financial crisis of the years 2008 and 2009 served the several occasions when President Chavez of Venezuela closed the Venezuelan market to the Colombian products. And fourth, my government had to confront and to dismantle the financial pyramid promoted by narco-traffickers. And of course, our fight created a lot of social problems because many people, especially in the south of the country, had put their money in these illegal financial pyramids. However, we could not get our goals in poverty reduction, but 13 million people left out poverty during our administration. Foreign direct investment passed from numbers between 500 million to billion per year inconsistently, with ups and downs, to a very strong ascendant line. Last year, Colombia had 19 billion. Of course, we have to deduct 6 billion of Colombian corporations that they invested in foreign countries. One of our achievements, in my opinion, was the consolidation of many solid Colombian private and public corporations that now are succeeding in investing outside the country. The investment rate in our country in the year 2002 was around 14. The private investment rate, it was around 8. The total amount of investments in the year 2002 was 22 billion. Last year, 80 billion. In violence, in the year 2002, Colombia suffered almost 30,000 cases of homicides. At the end of our administration, a little bit over 15,000. We were not happy. We need to eliminate assassination. But the trend was good. In kidnapping, we passed from suffering 4,000 cases per year, and in the last year of our administration, we had 224. Of course, we were not happy. We needed 0 cases, but the trend was good. Before our administration, there were years, and I want you to keep this in your mind, when more than 350 trade union leaders were killed. In the last year of our administration, 20 workers. We wanted 0. At the beginning, we found only 1 killer in jail. At the end, there were more than 200. The International Labor Organization, for first time, excluded Colombia from the list of non-complaint countries, because during our 2 terms, we did our best for Colombia to comply with the regulations of the International Labor Administration. Of course, we had many problems, and there are controversies, but we have confronted all the controversies. And now, I want to repeat to open this session for your questions and comments. The country was on the right track. The problems had not been solved yet. We had not won yet, but the country was winning.